Good afternoon. I'm Peter Sparanese, City Manager for the City of Abbotsford. Mayor Henry Braun will be providing you with an update on the state of the emergency, some of the repair works that have been completed to date, as well as an update on our emergency orders. I ask that you hold your questions until he has completed his remarks. Staff will also be on hand with microphones, as we would like to capture your questions as part of this briefing today. So please ensure you speak loudly into the mic. With that, thank you, and over to Mayor Henry Braun.
Thank you, Peter, and good afternoon, everyone. I'd like to start by acknowledging that we are located on the traditional territories of the Tsemeth, Matsqui, and Leqomal First Peoples. I'm Henry Braun, the Mayor of Abbotsford, and with me today is our City Manager, Peter Sparanese. As you can imagine, today's weather event and the two sequential events to come have been the focus of much attention here at the Emergency Operations Center. We have been monitoring water levels and keeping an eye on modeling projections for the Nooksack River and the Sumas River very closely. Although today's rain has definitely had an impact on the Barrowtown Pump Station's ability to reduce the floodwater levels in the eastern portion of Sumas Prairie, we are not currently seeing an increase in water levels as a result of today's rain. I have said many times that this event is at least a 1 in 100 plus a year flooding event. What that means is that in the last 100 years, we have never had this much water accumulated on the Sumas Prairie Lake bottom. Addressing this water remains an ongoing priority. The Barrowtown Pump Station is able to pump water out of the Sumas Prairie Lake bottom at a rate that reduces the overall water level by 6 to 8 inches per day in dry conditions or dry weather. This is, of course, impacted by any rainfall and runoff water from both the Vedder and Sumas Mountain. But as I mentioned, we are still moving in a positive direction right now. That said, it will likely be weeks before we are able to pump all of the water from the still flooded portion of the eastern Sumas Prairie. I mentioned yesterday there are hazardous and potentially contaminated materials in the floodwaters, which is why we need to complete the environmental assessments of the area to ensure it is safe. This work is underway, although crews will not be able to fully evaluate the entire area, including the water mains, until all of the floodwater recedes. Over the past week, we have put every effort toward ensuring that we are as ready as we can be should the worst case scenario occur and we experience floodwaters moving north from Washington State again. The repairs to the main dike are nearing completion, and the work there to bring the dike to a height of 23 feet is now 95% complete and expected to be finished before the next rain event, which we expect over the weekend. The Cole Road repairs are complete, and the balance of the work at Atkinson Road area, the Atkinson Road area of the South Dike is anticipated to be finished this weekend. The Canadian Armed Forces were able to complete sandbagging in historic Claiborne Village, although there is still sediment removal taking place in Matsqui Prairie. To date, 21 bridges have been inspected by our structural engineers, 93 kilometers of road and 378 culverts have been inspected by our geotechnical engineers. Turning to the recovery efforts, our rapid damage assessments being led by Canada Task Force 1 continue as an important step in determining when remaining evacuation orders can be lifted. Our rapid damage assessment team has done more than 1,500 assessments as of today, and we expect more than 1,500 additional assessments to be undertaken in the coming days and weeks. It is vital that we conduct these rapid damage assessments to ensure that people can return to their homes, barns, and businesses as safely as possible. To date, we have had more than 1,300 people register with our Emergency Support Services Reception Center at TradeX. Again, we are pleased to see the provincial government supports starting to become available to assist all of our impacted residents. As you know, the provincial government has announced that Highway 1 is open today between Abbotsford and Chilliwack. We encourage everyone to monitor Drive BC for all of the latest road conditions. Regardless of where you are driving, please ensure that you drive for the existing weather conditions, watch your speed, and remain focused on the road. And now I'm just going to briefly deal with the visuals that are here. So this is what has happened. The water came in here. The breach occurred. All of that water, which was probably 24 feet higher than it was over here on this side of the dike, poured into that lake bottom. And I mean poured. I have pictures of that. It's unbelievable. So that's where we were. Over here is where we are as of somewhere, November 21st. So when that breach broke up here, that water just poured in. Again, 24, well, it overtopped the dike, so it was overtopping for probably a kilometer, and eventually broke, and then all of that flooded into the lake bottom, which is here. So you can see how the water, this is all clear, so people who are driving down Sumas Way, or even looking at from these houses up here, they're looking over this part of the prairie and wondering, what's with the water? We don't see any water, because this is such a large area. The reason is because this is the dike for the Sumas River dike, so anything coming in through here from the United States would go into the Sumas Channel and out through the floodgates up here. But once that breach occurred, that water all poured in here, and so that's why this is relatively, the eastern 1/3 is relatively dry. Or dry, it's wet, but relatively speaking, it's dry. And you can see the migration of the lake from that photograph over there to over here. You can see how this is all migrated over to here and up through in this area. And I thought it would be helpful for everyone to understand what's going on here. So with that, that is my update for today, and I will now take any questions. I don't see any hands. Oh, sorry, I can't. They're so bright. The lights are so bright I can't see you.
Looking ahead to about how it's likely to take weeks to pump out the water. A long time ago, there was a mention of bringing in more pumps to be able to help with that work. Is that still happening, or how will that be accomplished?
We have additional pumps out there. I think I saw some pictures on social media. And media as well. But those pumps are collectively, I think there's 7 or 8. There was 9 lines, so I don't know how it's all hooked up. But anyways, they pump 25,000 gallons a minute, which is a small fraction of what the Barrowtown pumps. There are no pumps to replace Barrowtown or to get anywhere even close to what Barrowtown is pumping. They're going full out. We have never run those pumps full tilt for this long ever. So we are fingers crossed that they're going to hold.
Hi there. Thanks for taking our questions. So I know kind of the main goal right now is to empty those areas, but with 2 more atmospheric rivers on the way and a lot more rain, maybe not as significant as we saw, but what is the city maybe doing to get ahead of what's coming up?
Well, we've done everything to get ahead. Our dikes are now at a level that they were before. What I am worried about, and I mean worried, not just concerned, I'm worried about, is what will the Nooksack do? Because if the Nooksack River overflows again, we have let me put it this way. In 1990, we had 16 hours, it took 16 hours for those floodwaters from the Nooksack to arrive at the US and Canada border. This last event, it was 13 hours. Now, what's different here is that all of our drainage ditches, all of our culverts, and they're 20 feet deep, those ditches along Highway 1, if you've ever driven there, that's all full of water. I just had a tour just before lunch, and what we don't know is how much more water will our existing system take. It really depends on the Nooksack, but we have a very careful eye on the Nooksack. I've talked to the mayor of Sumas yesterday afternoon, and we're going to be in contact with him because when their sirens go off warning their city, I want a phone call right now because we don't have sirens on this side. That's maybe something we need to look at for another day. Anyone else? Appears not. We're good to go. Thank you for coming up, and we'll see you tomorrow at our briefing. Thank you.